with me to the Old Testament book of Exodus, chapter number 20. Exodus, chapter number 20. God's commands are not restrictions to avoid, they're revelations to embrace. And so for the next 2 months, we're going to study these 10 commandments to see God's blueprint for shaping a countercultural community in challenging times. And so today I want to focus in on this first commandment, where God reveals that authentic freedom starts with getting your loyalty straight. Let's look at verse 3. You shall have no other gods before me. You can be seated. You shall have, thank you to our ushers, no other gods before me. I want to label this series the cheat code, and today I want to talk about single-hearted devotion. Single-hearted devotion. After God delivers Israel from 400 years of Egyptian bondage in fulfillment of God's promise to Abraham in Genesis chapter number 15. One of the first things God says to Israel is that I want your exclusive loyalty. Come at it one more time. One of the first things God says after bringing his people out of bondage is that I want your exclusive loyalty. That if you're going to be free and if you're going to stay free, you have to be committed to me. Because they'd been in Egypt 400 years, we're talking about 400 years of exposure to a pantheon of false gods, other gods. The 10 plagues is God going to war against other gods. When we see him turning the water into blood, when we see the frogs and the lice and the gnats, when we see the flies, when we see the death of the livestock and the boils, when we see hail falling out of heaven and locusts eating up their crops, when we see darkness cover the land and the firstborn of every household in Egypt dying, it is God at war against other gods. And you may not see it yet, but the truth of the matter is, when there are other gods, other influences, other pulls on your affections, what you learn is that you're easily distracted by everything going on around you. You find yourself competing for attention. You find things competing. This is the way I want to say it. Competing loyalties. Who am I going to be loyal to, or who am I going to be attentive to? Okay, y'all need Jesus' words. Matthew chapter 6 says it this way. Which one of them two masters you going to serve? See, when you start talking about competing loyalties, we may need to bring up your career and how committed you are to your career, that your career comes before your relationship with God. Okay, y'all don't want to talk about your career. All right, I'll leave your job alone. Maybe it's that man, that woman that you're so in love with that you raise them up above your relationship with God. Social media, they're not helping in the sanctuary. I really need your help. Maybe it's more important that you be accepted by the people around you. So even though you know God is pushing and prodding you in a particular direction, you resist him because social validation has become more important to you than God's approval. It's a competing loyalty. It's a competing loyalty. God says that your attention is so easily pulled away from me. I wasn't expecting much help this morning, but I got to tell you the truth that it's so easy. Matter of fact, studies show in 2000 the human attention span was about 12 seconds long. Compared to today, it's only about 8 seconds long. If I want to get your attention, I got 8 seconds to grab your attention. Your attention is smaller than a goldfish. And that ain't just me talking, that's science. Science says that the human attention span is shorter than a goldfish. And God says, if you can't pay attention to your work and to what's directly in front of you, how are you going to pay attention to a God you can't see, but who brought you out of Egypt and who raised you up and who said, how are you going to give me your attention? This is the thesis. I'll preach this somewhere else where somebody want to hear this. God liberates his people from competing loyalties so they can experience the freedom of single-minded devotion. Let me tell you what it means. God did not bring Israel out of Egypt just to bring Israel out of Egypt. When he brought them out of Egypt, he brought them out with a specific agenda, a specific purpose. If you were to go back and run the reference through the book of Exodus, you find in Exodus chapter 5 that Moses says to Pharaoh, let my people go so that I can take them into the wilderness so that they can serve the Lord. Exodus 7:16, let my people go that they may serve me. Exodus 8:1, let my people go that they may serve me. Exodus 8:20, let my people go so that they may serve me. Exodus 9:1, let my people go so that they may serve me. Exodus 10:5, let my people go so that they may serve me. God didn't just bring you out to bring you out. All of this was so that you could serve him. There is a liberation that comes when God has brought you out of what you were in and set you free so that you might serve him with joy, serve him with gladness. I'm trying to tell somebody that if you really want to be free, it ain't in the bottle, it ain't in the weed, it ain't in the man, it ain't in the woman. It's in a relationship with God. And when you start serving him, he knows how to give you joy unspeakable and full of glory. He knows how to let you lay down and have peace at night. Why? Because he let you go so that you could serve him. That's why Pharaoh has to let you go. Not just so that you could be liberated, but so that you could serve him. You need to understand this morning that the God who brought Israel out of Egypt, the same God that freed Israel from Egyptian slavery, stands ready to set you free from your exhausting warfare with competing loyalties, because he wants you to serve him. But it's going to take undivided devotion. It is monogamy. It's him and him alone. And so here's the challenge. Here's the call to action. When you realize that you're entertaining distractions that fragment your attention, you need to take a Selah moment. You need to pause and remember, this can't save me. I don't understand. I don't understand. Soapbox. I gotta hurry up. Soapbox. I don't understand how you ready to throw your whole relationship with God away for a man that can't pay the bills. I don't understand. The people weren't even going to give you the job, and now you ain't got time to pray for a job that you don't even like. Why would you sacrifice your relationship with God for something competing for your attention when God is always greater than the thing that's competing for your attention? Here's the thing. Deuteronomy 6 says, you got to learn how to love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your mind, with all your soul. And when you read in the New Testament, it adds, and with all your strength. And here's why. Here's number one, the first thing I want to say today. Because your single-hearted devotion reveals your affections for him. Let the church say affections. See, when God commands, oh, this is the best part of the sermon. Y'all turn your amen meter on. This is where, right here, put a quarter in there and see what we can come up with. When God commands exclusive loyalty as Israel's first act of freedom, he reveals that true devotion flows from the liberty of love. Not an obligation to legalism, but from the liberty of love. Here's the thing. God does not start with the rule. He actually starts with the relationship. If you look up at verse number 2, he says, I am the Lord, your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. Before I ask you for exclusive loyalty, I want to remind you that I didn't wait for you to love me to love you. That when you were still in Egypt, I loved you enough to come down into where you were and snatch you out of what you were in, not because you earned it or deserved it, but I loved you enough to snatch you out of a bad situation. I need some witnesses in this room that's going to help your pastor, even though his voice is struggling, to help your pastor preach through this little sermon, that knows that I didn't deserve to be delivered. I didn't deserve to be saved. I earned it. Let me tell you something. I deserved everything I had coming to me, but he loved me before I loved him. And because he loved me before I loved him, he reached into my situation, into the sin I was in, and he delivered me because he loved me. And he didn't ask me for anything. He just said, I love you with everlasting love. And I'll draw you with everlasting love. And I'll raise you with an everlasting love. And he saved me before I ever did anything to prove that I loved him back. I'm trying to tell you that while you were yet a sinner, Christ died for us. This is how God demonstrates his love. He says, I love you so much that I won't wait on you to do it. I'll do it before you ever love me. That's why First John says it this way. First John says it this way. First John says, we love him because he first loved us. And so, come on, Pastor. And so, here's the idea. Because I loved you first, because I loved you and I pulled you into this relationship, I got one thing I want to ask of you. This is the thing I need from you. If we're going to be in relationship, like, hurry up, Pastor, you out of time. Like we say we're going to be in relationship, I need you to have no other gods beside me. No other gods before me. Here it is. In the Hebrew, it literally says, I don't want you to have any other gods before my face. I don't want you to bring any other gods in my presence. Here it is. I don't want you to prefer another God to me. See, let me put it in your lap. God is present with you everywhere. He never leaves you. He never leaves you. And so while God is present, maybe silent, but present, when you decide to give your allegiance to something else, he stands there and watch you while you're giving your affections to someone else. Okay, let's have a conversation. Sister girl, you and your husband is together, and your husband does the unthinkable. He decides he's going to get him a side piece. Yeah, he's going to get him a side piece. But here's the problem. Here's the problem. When he gets the side piece, he leaves you in the back seat while they on their way to their date. And then when they go to dinner, he sits you at the table with them. And while they're at the movies, you reaching in the popcorn bucket with them. And the whole time he with somebody else, you're still right there. That's what God is saying. I'm always there. I'm always there. I'm always there. I ain't never left. I ain't never left. I'm always there. But you're putting somebody else in my face. I'm always there. But you put that relationship before. You preferred that relationship to me. And so even though I'm present, you got it in my face. That's what idolatry is. That's what idolatry is. It's when you prefer it something more than you prefer God. You prefer the creation more than you prefer the creator. And so now the fact that you got that car becomes more important to you than God, even though God is the one helping you drive the car. I'll have to come back and deal with that in Bible study. God says, I don't want you to have another God in my presence. I don't want you to have another God in my face. I don't want you to prefer something else to me. Why? Because they didn't love you like I loved you. I loved you before you ever made them. I loved you. I loved you when you didn't have no money. I loved you when you didn't have a job. I loved you when you were bumming a ride to work. I loved you when you was nappy-headed and sleeping your eyes with curlers and a bonnet on. I loved you when didn't nobody else want you. And now that you done something for yourself and done got yourself free, all of a sudden you want to put somebody in front of me? Y'all ain't feeling. Y'all ain't feeling. So the question is, since God demonstrated his love first, this isn't really asking you to do anything but to appropriately respond to what he's already done. Listen to what I'm saying. It's not hard to pay your tithes when you realize that he gave you the money. It's not hard. It's not hard. It's not hard to love somebody back when you realize that they've already showed love to you. The problem comes in when you receive the love but never reciprocate the love. I'm trying my best to preach this in the last 4 minutes I have, but I'm trying to get you to see, here's the principle of the lesson, that when you have a single-hearted devotion, it proves that your affections are towards him. I'm telling you, I love my wife and children, but they'll never be more to me than my God is. Listen, we've been here together 5 years. We've been here together 5 years, and I love this church. God in heaven knows. God in heaven knows I love this church. This church is the reason I'm still pastoring. I was leaving pastoral ministry. I promise you I was. I was trying to quit, and the Lord wouldn't let me. I was trying to quit, and the Lord wouldn't let me. And he brought me to the Greater Beulah Church in Columbus, Georgia. And I love this church, but this church will never take the place of God for me. I can't never put you before him. Can I tell you why? Because if it weren't for God, I wouldn't have a wife and kids. If he had not given me as a gift to Greater Beulah and given Greater Beulah as a gift to me, I wouldn't be here and you wouldn't either. We'd all be in our separate places doing our separate thing. But God loved us enough that he knit us together. And since he knit us together, the way I show I love him is by serving you. All right. I'm not going to finish this. Y'all got to come to Bible study. Let me at least say a word about the promise. I'll talk about the practice in Bible study. At least let me say a word about the promise. Because here's the thing. This is the third point. This would be my third point. I'm going to do point 2 in Bible study. This would be the third point of the sermon. Single-hearted devotion releases God's addition. Let the church say addition. See, here's what's going to happen when you decide to stop putting things before him. When you stop preferring other things to him. When you stop parading his blessings in his face as if they're more important than him. This is what's going to happen. Seek ye first the kingdom of heaven and all of his righteousness. And here's what the Bible says. When you put God in his rightful place, all these other things will be added to you. See, you were messing up putting the blessing before the blesser. Because you're so scarcity minded that you think if I get this blessing, I got to hold on to it so tight because I ain't sure if I'm ever going to get blessed again. Listen, let me tell you, if you ever put the blesser before the blessing, it's kind of like a water faucet. As long as you holding the water faucet tight, you can only get a trickle out of it. But if you ever let that thing go, there's a flow that rushes out of there. It sounds something like Malachi, I'll open the windows. They don't want to help me preach. I might as well stop. I'll open windows in heaven and I'll pour it out on you. Why? Because you put me before the blessing. Here's the word. I want to holler, but I'm not going to. Here's this word added. Here's this word added. Added. All these things shall be added to you. It literally means to place something at the disposal of another. Oh, this is so good, man. Y'all got to come to Bible study so I can talk about it for real. I got to run through it. I'm out of time. But here's the idea. The stuff doesn't become yours. It's still his. But because you put me first, I'm not going to give it to you, but I'm going to let you use what's mine. Now you got to pay attention to who said this. Jesus says, seek ye first the kingdom of heaven and all of his righteousness, and all these other things shall be added unto you. That God, if you seek his kingdom first, all other things will be put at your disposal. So you may not have the money, but if he has the money, I'll let you use what I have, even though I didn't give it to you. All right, they don't like it. I'll say, you may not have, you may still be sick, but I'll let you use some of my joy. This is what it means to put God first. God says it's not a reward. I'm not rewarding you for putting me first. The natural outflow of putting me first is that you'll live a life of abundant blessings, because I will let you enjoy not what's yours, but what's mine. Can I tell you, everything I have don't belong to me. What I have really belongs to God. He's just letting me enjoy it. And because he's letting me enjoy it, I'm able to pay my bills. I'm able to put gas in my car. I'm able to put food on my table. I was able to clothe my children. I'm able to have a reasonable portion of my good mind, not because it's mine, it's really his. He just lets me enjoy it. All right, I'll preach some more next week. I'll teach some more Tuesday.